Hey there, crew. It's Mark from Men Who Bullet. Thanks for coming to hang out with me today as we do a review of the Mind Journal. This is something that I've seen a lot online, and it totally grabbed my attention because it's focused a little bit more on the male demographic than kind of just this general journaling platform. Because this isn't just a blank journal, this is actually a guided journal that helps you focus in a 3-step program on yourself, on others, and then what you're doing in the future. This notebook and this whole idea behind the Mind Journal was created when the owner, Ali, unfortunately had lost his mom years ago, and over time just kind of really buried that deep down inside, never kind of learned how to express that appropriately. From that, he started to notice a lot of lifestyle changes, eventually going to a therapist who was having a hard time getting him to communicate out his emotions and actually recommended journaling. And from there, it started the entire revolution within his own life on how he could take this from a personal journey and share this with other guys out there that might be struggling to do the same thing. This isn't just a blank journal. As you'll see, this actually is a 3-step guided process with over 30 different activities that really help you set intention, achievements, as well as help you work through just some different emotions, maybe relationships, and then also setting goals for yourself in the future. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'll go through what I've been doing so far with it. We'll take a look at the 3-step program and talk a little bit more about what the Mind Journal is here to do.
So when you get this, what you have is going to be your journal inside of this box though. The presentation is great. It's got this really cool looking embossing here that says Mind Journal. It gives you a little bit of an overview of what you're going to get here. So inside of this journal, you're going to get 3 months of journaling. You have 30 life-changing exercises, which we'll go through and talk about. And then these 3 stages of self-discovery, which we'll mention as well in here too. So let's go ahead and open this up and let's talk about some of the features. Once you pull your journal out, it has this absolutely stunning cover, nice soft journal here. It's not a hardbound at all. The journal itself is an A5 size, so it's your standard journal you're going to find out there. You're going to have a charcoal faux leather cover here. The pages themselves are 110 GSM ink-proof ivory paper. We'll take a look at some of the pens we use to see just how ink-proof they really are. 264 lined pages. Everything in here is going to essentially drive you with some type of specific task, and then you have a lot of your lined pages over here where you're going to write or freestyle write. You're going to have the 2 ribbon markers here. That way you can help keep your place as you're working through these as well. The Mind Journal launched in 2016, as I mentioned, has been a real focus on guys journaling. Really, this could be used for anyone, but the market, kind of the demographic for this is definitely more in that men's category. So if you're on their website or you're on their Instagram, you're going to see a lot more of that focus. But going through this myself and working through it, I really think this could be helpful for anybody. The front of the journal talked about the life-changing exercises that you're going to go through. The reason that I think they're calling them life-changing is that there's a lot of cases, I think, where people don't know how to structure a journal necessarily. I could tell you honestly that I wouldn't know where to start as well. And that's where I think this journal really comes in handy, is it helps you start from a very guided perspective. Let me ask you a question and you're going to answer it. Let's go through this exercise and then reflect on it. As you go further and further into this book, as you get further back here, you'll start to see that you are getting rid of any type of prompt because you're kind of prompting yourself. It's going to kind of train you to get there. But you do have this very coveted check-in page, which I really liked a lot, and we'll talk about that too. We'll come back to the check-in in just a bit. This is something that you do every single day, which I think is fantastic, and I do want to definitely hit on that. The program overall, though, as I mentioned, those 30 exercises that you're going to go through, the 3 main stages, and then as you're going through this, what's really nice is you do feel supported as you go. It's kind of a, like I said, a guided journal as you go through there. And what's really great too is if you have questions, if you want a quick start guide, if you want to kind of go through that, you can go to manual.mindjournals.com and get some more of those questions answered if you feel like you need that before you get started. So the first stage inside of here is really just getting comfortable writing in a journal. I don't know that I ever really felt comfortable doing that. Most time you're like, oh, that's a diary or whatever that might be. Or I think the only time in my life where I wrote in a journal every day was way back in high school. I was taking a creative writing class and we had to kind of express ourselves on a daily basis, but I haven't really done it on my own. So this really helps you kind of figure those things out. So stage 1 is really all learning about how to capture your thoughts and how to capture your feelings and just write them down and feel like you're in a safe space to do that. This is not something that I feel like you're going to be sharing on Instagram or you're going to be kind of putting out there. You certainly could if you wanted to, but this is a lot more for self-reflection. So with this, don't feel like you have to share this with anybody. family, even your significant other. Like, this is a very private thing that you should hold on to, especially as you're moving through these stages and kind of unloading a lot of what's going on and what's happening inside of your head. It could be relationship based, it could be work based. So these might not be things that you necessarily want to share out loud if you don't want to. But I love that it starts you off and says, we're going to turn this into a practice. You're going to find yourself somewhere quiet to sit down. You're going to take 5 or 10 minutes a day to do this. And I really love the way that it's set up to be actionable and to be successful as well. A lot of quotes as you're going through here, and then you start to move into the first check-in. Now, in the very beginning of here, we talked about what that means exactly. So the check-in is actually one of my favorite parts as I've gone through a week of really filling this out. So first and foremost, you're adding the date. Hey, when am I doing this? This is something you could certainly do every single day, but this is not a dated planner. So you put in the date. So you want to skip a day or do something else, you absolutely can. No one's going to judge you for that. It's all about what you have time for, but making sure that you actually make time for it. You have the feelings checklist. This is something that I found to be interesting for myself. Every day was a bit different, and going through each of these and really sitting down and thinking, how was I feeling that day? Was I in a good mood? Was I nervous? Was I anxious? Did I not have high confidence today? Whatever it might be, it really helped me kind of kick those things off, and I like that. The intentions and achievement space is actually kind of cool. I kind of used it more as like a to-do list, where the things that I want to get done in that day, what do I want to achieve? But you could certainly turn that around and turn that into achievements. What did I do this day versus what do I want to do this day? There's also gratitude on every single page. I think it's really important just doing that. It's something that I've tried to do inside of my bullet journal, but I don't know that I necessarily ever fully succeeded with it, but I like that it's built in. And then happy hour. This is kind of that self-care part. If you're taking an hour a day, what do you do with that? So the hour every single day was something that I wanted to do that was just me time. So a few times through here, you'll say that I sat down and played video games, which isn't something that I get to do a lot as a dad and having a family. So taking an hour for myself when the kids go to bed and just being alone, kind of with my thoughts and playing a game, like, that's awesome. And I absolutely love that. After filling in my check-in here, I moved over to the very first prompt, which was, what are my goals and what do I want to get out of writing in a journal like this? And I love that it's very proactive and very supportive. It's saying, hey, think big and think small. Be realistic and be unrealistic. What I feel like this journal is really doing for you is just kind of helping to break the mold of what you think it means to journal on a daily basis. And sometimes it's kind of seen as an uncool thing. Is this a diary? What am I doing? But as a guy, we've got feelings too, right? Not to be too stereotypical, but a lot of guys that I know aren't really willing to kind of share where they are mentally. Everything's all good all the time, even though internally you might be working through something. If you're not feeling comfortable sharing that with a friend or a loved one, share it in here with yourself. Sometimes just writing it down helps get it out of your head and onto paper, which I think is really fantastic. As you're going through this too, you're going to actually see a bunch of like little small tidbits in the bottom of these pages here. What I liked about the first page here is just reminding you that goals can sometimes be more about the journey than the destination. It can just be, what am I working towards versus what is the thing that I'm working towards? What's getting me there versus what's at the end? And you get a little of those as you're going through, and it's great. They give you plenty of pages to work through here. I only wrote 2 sentences as I was getting going, which is absolutely fine. I don't have to fill up 3 pages of notes to be successful inside of here. Hey, I just want to get in a habit of journaling and not just tracking tasks all the time in my bullet journal. I want to be able to better understand what's working for myself in my life and what's not. That's really my goal, and that's what I wanted to get out of this. As you're going through, you're going to see that my colors are changing. I have to try different pens inside of my journals. It's just innately a part of what I do anytime I'm using a new journal. So as I'm changing through colors, some of the pens I was using, I was going through was like the Sharpie S Gel pen. I was using the Papermate Inkjoy. I was using this multi pen here from Monteverde, USA. This is the Quadro, which is cool because it can be black, it can be red, it can be blue, it can be a pencil, it can be whatever you want. And then also something like the Uniball Vision Elites, which I always like using. And I even tried to use a fountain pen inside of here. Since it said it was 110 GSM and ink proof, I felt like maybe it should do a good job. So we're kind of looking at that a little bit, but it's more about the journey than the ending, right? So on the next day here, hit again with the check-in. How am I feeling? What am I working on? What am I grateful for? How did I spend my extra hour? This day I was spending it relaxing with my wife, which was exactly what I needed. And then we started into another one of these exercises, and this is called the pie of life. And what's cool is that it kind of sets you up with a blank grid, and then you're picking from either these different options here or making up your own. You're listing them around, and then you are rating yourself from least satisfied to most satisfied. Where am I in my life? How am I doing? So a lot of these were good. I think of all of these, fitness is where I was not super satisfied. I'm not really focusing on that for myself right now, but this is most certainly something that I think is something that I would like to improve on. And then as you go into that next page, you actually journal about that. You write, hey, how did I do? What do I want to improve on? What did I score the lowest or the highest? And how did that make me feel? So for myself, like I said, I think everything for the most part was pretty even for myself here. The only thing really is fitness. And I can try to prioritize that if I want to, but how do I do that without burning out or becoming like totally obsessed with it and then just it not working for me anymore? What's great is that this is also teaching you about these different types of exercises. So any point in my time, whether I'm using this journal or another one, this is giving me resources to use to help me just kind of lock myself in where I am with life right now. You could do these every single quarter if you wanted to. You could do them weekly if you wanted to and really start to take a look at that. But it gets you in the habit of working on some type of self-reflection and then moving into the actual writing reflection of that. How am I doing here? I'm doing okay. I'd like to get better at this, and you kind of just tracking through as you're going. All the pens worked really well in here. The only one that didn't work great was the fountain pen. It probably could be for a multitude of reasons, but I would just say if you're going through, you got to try to find the right fountain pen maybe for this paper. I just used my one here from Gravitas Pens, which I love, a little pocket pen. It just has regular ink, nothing too fancy inside of it. It looked great on this paper here, but when I flipped the page back, I realized, oh crap, it was bleeding through the page. So just be careful. I think if you go with kind of your normal pens, your kind of everyday kind of pens, you're going to be okay inside of here. So now at this point, I just want to kind of go through, I haven't made it all the way through this journal yet. There's a lot of stuff that I still want to explore inside of here, but just to show you that it's not always about an exercise. Sometimes it's just, brain dumping what's going on in your life. Just kind of get it all out there. Whatever you want to do, draw something, write a list, draw a picture, however you want to make that happen. And you just go through all of that. And then about a third way through the book, you're going to move into stage 2. So really stage 1 is really just focusing on yourself, getting yourself in the habit of writing inside of a journal and doing something like that. And as it says right here, now it's time to step it up a gear. This next stage is all about you and the people around you. So this whole first part really was about self-reflection and you and kind of breaking those things down. Now we're moving into family, loved ones, work, extracurricular activity, whatever that might be, and the people that surround you. And that's super cool. Throughout a lot of this book, again, you're going to get a lot of that positive reinforcement like this. It's impossible to get this wrong. You are the expert on you and no one else knows you better. Be honest with yourself and you'll be just fine. Let's get excited about this. So it does give you a lot of that positive affirmation, and I really love that. So every single day is going to have that check-in, or whenever you're using this, you're always going to have the check-in, and then over on the right-hand page, you're going to find some type of activity. So you've got a relationship map here, similar to the rings that we did earlier inside of here. This idea, though, is kind of plotting the most important person right here in the middle, and then working that out. And this just kind of helps you go through and think about your groups of people, your friend groups, who are your biggest allies and maybe who are a little bit further out in the distance. Little nervous to fill this out myself once I get to stage 2, to be honest with you. And then the next page here really starts to talk about, what do these people mean to you? So you're always going to work on an exercise and then you're going to come back in and then kind of reflect on that a little bit. Sometimes it's going to be a graphic exercise like that. Sometimes it's just going to be a prompt and have you write on it, like who's your role model? Reflect on your relationships. What's your biggest fear? Got a stress bucket. This could be kind of fun. In the bucket, list everything that's making you feel stressed. Then where the tap is at the bottom, list all of the things that help relieve your stress. So a nice little cool exercise. I've never used this one before. I'm excited to get to here eventually. Then once you get out of stage 2, then it's time for stage 3. So this is the final stage. In this stage, it's all about your future and your needs and what's important to you. So it could be a lot about yourself. It could be a lot about your family and friends. It could be something different. What's cool about this is it's trying to set you up for success in the future. This paragraph right here says, we're about to make some real big statements here. Know that it's okay if you don't have all those answers. You don't have to get this done all at the same time. You might have to reflect a little bit. So let's go ahead and have some fun. So as we go into this, it's like, again, you're going to find your check-ins. That's kind of a staple of this. You're always going to find that. It's like the signature check-in tool is what they call it. Then over on the other side here, well, what's on your effort list? Write down all the things in your life that you think are important but aren't. Like, this is really important to kind of help prioritize your life and what's going on. And if you need 3 pages for your effort list, then go for it. Just say no. What is hard to say no to? What's going to bring you joy? Stop putting things off. What's your game plan? You're going to go all the way through this until you get to our page here, which is, hey, you've done it. You've gone through your self-reflection. You've reflected on others in relationships in your life. You've reflected on the future. Now it's going to be up to you to write about whatever you want. Every single day is still going to have those staple check-ins no matter what. But now when you get to the end of this journal, your pages are blank. What I love about this is that if there are exercises that you really liked further back in this journal, I'd actually recommend bookmarking them for yourself or maybe putting a little tag or something in there. There is no rule with this notebook ever that says you can't go back to those and use those. So if you really found the effort list to be really great and therapeutic for you, then let's go for it. Let's add that back in here. If the stress bucket was something that you want to do, draw a real quick stress bucket and let's get those ideas out. So the rest of this notebook is going to be exactly for that. The very back of here, when you're all done, hey, you've used all of your paper in your notebook. Congratulations, you've made it all the way through here. And what do you have to do next? Well, it's really up to you. If you want, you can head over and get another journal, and you can kind of take the next step in this if you want to. You can certainly buy yourself a blank journal if you wanted to. It's all about that next step and what you want to make happen. I'll tell you, I've only made it through a handful of these pages so far before I did this review, but I've really enjoyed the habit of sitting down in the mornings when I did a lot of this and just turning everything off and just focusing on this. It was great to kind of have that check-in. And what's interesting, and I'll share this with you because I don't have anything too crazy in here, but every day does look a little bit different. That very first day I was feeling very determined, optimistic, and inspired. The next day I get in here and was feeling a little bit worried about something and unsure about something. And had some stuff on my mind as I'm going through there. My big focus on like where things were happening. And that's just a day. And then you move to the next day and then it suddenly looks a bit different. Hey, I'm happy. I'm hopeful. I'm a little bit tired, All of those things are going through. And I don't know usually if someone said to me, hey, Mark, how are you doing today? I don't think that I'm using these words to communicate that. I'm probably just saying, I'm good. How are you? Instead, I can start to use some of these instead. And someone says, hey, Mark, how are you doing today? I can say, you know what? I'm feeling hopeful. I'm really grateful today. I'm excited to get some stuff done. It's just a different way of communicating. It's a different way of talking with other people around you. And in some cases, even talking to yourself. So I think that this is a fantastic journal to have. As I mentioned before, I know that it's a little bit more aimed towards the male demographic, but this is absolutely a notebook that anybody could use and really get a lot out of.
I'm really excited to continue to use this journal here, go through the entire process, and also take some of the resource pages out of here too. I really like some of these ideas around relationships and stress and trying to solve these problems on paper. I'm already doing that in my bullet journal to a certain extent, but not so introspectively. It's kind of on the face level, which is okay. But what's cool is I can take the ideas inside of something like this once I learn more about it and utilize it in any type of planner or notebook that I'm using. If you're interested in checking out more about the MindJournal, want to get one for yourself, I'll put all the links for you down in the descriptions below, but you can head over to mindjournals.com. They also have a brand new balance planner, which I'm excited to learn more about. I only just saw it on Instagram earlier today when they first released it. So there are a lot more offerings from this brand that you can check out for yourself over there. We have one more notebook review coming up for you. I'm really excited to get this one in front of you. I cannot wait as we wrap out our notebook review series all the way up until the end of this year. Of course, we'll have plenty more throughout 2023 as we get into as well, but I want to get you set up on something that you might be a little bit more comfortable with for yourself, whether it be for bullet journal planning or even just introspective journaling. Thank you so much for checking out today's video, and I'll talk to you very soon. See ya.